Forgot to put my contacts in. Oh well. Sydney Sweeney's jeans ain't got shit on Pan-Hellenic Recruitment Week, baby. If you've ever stumbled across Bama Rush content with zero context, you might assume the US had finally gone full eugenics trad wife supremacy. We're arguably already there, but it's just not as much fun as Bama Rush. If you ask the average person what Bama Rush is, they might say it's what you do to the bathroom the day after eating an entire Taco Bell party box, and not the week where college students solicit themselves to a sorority or a frat. Bama Rush, short for Alabama, went viral back in 2021, and it still does, sort of, every year, just with diminishing returns. But even now, there are still videos from the University of Alabama with hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of views from fans of Bama Rush consuming videos of PNMs, or promising new members, vying for their top sorority houses. They post reactions to Outfit of the Day videos and spill the southern sweet tea about past sorority members and gossip as if they were contestants on The Bachelor. Bachelor hardly know her.
It's Bama Rush season, and I fear that I am one of the people that sits and watches every single TikTok that comes onto my feed. And when I tell you, it has been long time. I feel like it's so many different types of events, so many more events this year. I'm going to be more, and I'm so glad it's documented. On the side of the girls that are in it so far, so that's the y'all know, comment, or the people who you're having is so interesting to see.
For anyone who doesn't know what Rush Week is, let alone Bama Rush, it's the week where fraternities and sororities seek new recruits. In Alabama, it starts August 9th, and it's called Rush because Greek house members would literally rush to the train station to petition new students to join their sorority or fraternity. Now it's a networking event from hell where the bill is sent to affluent parents, and boy, is it some bill.
I figured out very quickly that being in a sorority at Alabama was not worth the $1,100 a month. I'm not sure if there's any way to prepare you for the financial burden you take on when you join a sorority. It's what happens when you're in an organization with nothing but rich, wealthy girls. Every time there was a date party, I felt like I was actually about to go to a fashion show. There are fees. Basically, in pretty much any sorority, anytime you get like punished, it's going to be with money. So if you miss a chapter, you didn't do something on time, you're going to be fined. Also, every sorority has a philanthropy, and for ours, we would have to raise like $200 each semester. But if you couldn't find people to donate to you, you would have to pay that money out of your pocket. And dues never stop. You get that bill every month. You have to put in a credit or a debit card to pay them. It's never ending.
Greek house dues per semester at the most prestigious schools average about $4,000, which doesn't include the fees to actually live in the sorority or frat house, which is about the same or more per semester. All of this in addition to tuition, which is about $12,000 for in-state students and upwards of $20,000 for out-of-state. Proving yourself during Rush is the most expensive job interview / lease application / FBI fitness physical, where the most important qualification is social capital and following a bunch of arbitrary rules, like solving a Trolls Riddles 3 of Zeta Alpha you want to be. However, most university rush weeks are not as over the top as they are in Alabama, and there are some sororities that don't have fees at all, but those are for the freaks and the poors. Bama Rush gets the most attention because of its status and opportunity and performative cutthroat theatrics that are Mean Girls meets Battle Royale. As someone who's never attended anything beyond a couple of community colleges, you're probably thinking, wow, this man is the perfect person to talk about Bama Rush. And I do not fault anyone's skepticism listening to a white man talk about sorority rush week, and I don't intend for this to be some kind of edgy takedown of the young women who do participate. I simply find the Greek system to be fascinating beyond the surface level cringe of Rush Week content. Like, for example, how only 2% of Americans have been a part of Greek life, yet 76% of US senators and congressmen, 85% of Supreme Court justices, and all but 2 presidents since 1825 were in a fraternity. And about how 25% of members of the House and 40% of the Senate were in a sorority. Which seems fishy. Greek life is basically a training course for real-life politics, including cosplaying as a shadowy government organization that rigs elections. Even more interesting is how the Greek system, and fraternities in particular, have historically used sororities to clean up their image, which we'll get into later. These viral Rush Week videos are nothing more than good PR. Now, I definitely had my own preconceived notions about Greek life, but after doing some research, reading several exposés, and consuming as much Bama Rush content as possible, as well as watching the 2023 HBO documentary of the same name that got understandably mixed reviews, those notions are not that far off from the reality. The house bunny seems like a pretty accurate depiction in hindsight, just with fewer boner comedy pranks and more psychological and emotional manipulation. First, we have to talk about the viral videos, where most of the Bama Rush content you'll see are from houses doing themed dance numbers in the vein of a Bring It On competitive cheerleading routine, or just a Bring It On cheerleading routine. Some are more self-aware and genuinely, I want to say, humorous than others, like Sig New cosplaying as a bunch of frat bros. Others lean into the southern trad life aesthetic, like Alpha Omega doing farm girl backflips. Most of the time, though, it's a celebration of Easter pastel athleisure. Jesus, what a line. With about as much coordination as you'd expect from a bunch of blonde-haired, blue-eyed 21-year-olds. As far as I can tell, these theatrics seem relatively new, presumably spurred on by the advent of the internet. Early Rush content was borderline body horror that inadvertently looked like a swelling rat king of human hands and blonde hair writhing in a dorm foyer. Foyer? Foyer. Nothing really gets worse than that, but they have gotten more intense over the years, despite moving away from the Cronenberg human pyramid welcome videos. How's my hair look? I didn't even check. This is what happens at Coyote Ugly before they jam a bottle of tequila down your throat and slap you across the face. Does it need to be this sexual? Is this for men or women? Pledges effectively run political campaigns in order to be accepted, and in the year 2025, that requires not just being seen networking and going to parties on campus in real life, but on social media as well, posting outfit of the day and get ready with me videos showing off their thousands of dollars of tasteless, boring jewelry.
Earrings are Sheila Bajal.
$105.
My bangle is Hermes.
Hermes, $380.
My rings are David Yurman.
$295 and $925.
My bracelets are Newton.
Bear with me, $124, $126, $206, $186, and $114 and $40. I think I got them all.
For some, that also means hiring Rush consultants who provide very basic common sense advice and only a small amount of insider information regarding the socio-political dynamics of a sorority who are maybe 5 years older than the girls they're consulting, which is a lot like a high school freshman giving an 8th grader life advice. They essentially tell these girls to scrub their social media all the way down to their Venmo history, and then style them in outfits to conform to the Greek life aesthetic and teach them how to have a conversation with a sorority sister that is inoffensive, but not too boring, and don't be too excited, and only talk about politics if they bring it up, and remember the 5 Bs, and don't wear the wrong thing, but you can't ask what it is, and if you don't know how to make everyone like you, you're gonna get dropped and you might as well just kill yourself. They are essentially etiquette consultants advising pledges on how to be demure and malleable, like how the military dehumanizes the individual out of a person so they can be more easily controlled. In the army, you shave your head and are given green fatigues. During Rush, you get a spray tan and a pair of pink Lululemon shorts. You are not an individual. You are now part of the noble womanhood hive mind. The whole reason these consultants exist in the first place is because the rules one must follow are mostly unwritten, which is meant to keep outsiders out. And the rules that are written seem arbitrary because they're not upheld equally to all PNMs. That's promising new members, for anybody who forgot.
Are you serious? Like, they're literally wearing someone else's sticker, and I got in trouble for wearing another sticker? Are you kidding me right now? I just felt like they were looking for a reason to drop me. Other girls went upstairs in fraternity houses. Other girls slept at fraternity houses. And they're still in the sorority.
The entire process is a way to control young women's minds and bodies through the stratification of the Southern belle archetype these institutions value most. Sorority recruitment, especially in the South, is simply a ritual of Southern drag that perpetuates the ideals of white Southern womanhood as well as archaic structures of class and race. Bama Rush is a pretty good drag name now that I think about it. From dress codes and decor to practice social interactions, it's a system that excludes minority applicants and anyone who doesn't fit the Southern Belle label.
Stratification in the sense of organizing people and groups of people into tiers of power, of status, of prestige. It's a proving ground of competitive femininity and the contemporary performance of the Southern Belle.
There are top, middle, and bottom houses who all have different privileges and influences on campus and outside of campus. Bottom houses are more likely to accept people of color when top houses literally remove their names from the hat of submissions before rush even starts. Sometimes bottom houses are even bribed into accepting people of color to clean up their reputation as a means to be accepted by the top houses. So why would anyone even want to join a sorority if this is how it works, let alone a Southern sorority? Pre-sexual revolution, sororities were sold to women as a place where they could find sisterhood in the educational system during a time when men thought their ovaries would shrivel up because all the blood would go to their brains from book reading and not their baby makers. Sororities became, and still are to this day in some capacity, quote, a space of control where under the watchful eye of alumni advisors, members were encouraged to refrain from challenging male authority of the time. The entire system was born out of frats, but utilized for the benefit of men to prepare young women to be appealing toward the male gaze, which is most likely what influences the kind of content sorority pledges and sisters make and share on TikTok now. It's not like you see similar content from fraternities. And that's because fraternities implicitly dictate how sororities function. In order to maintain an image of noble womanhood, sororities have arbitrary rules that preemptively acquiesce to fraternal control. Sororities don't allow their members to drink or bring alcohol to parties, all of which happen at frat houses. They forbid them from even talking about men or dating, and rule that if they go out, they must be presentable by having 2 of 3 elements done before leaving: hair, makeup, or outfit.
I know there was one house that my roommate was in freshman year. She told me that they literally could not leave the dorm unless they had 2 out of 3 done, which was either you had to have your hair done, makeup done, or outfit on.
And if sorority sisters do want to get laid, they're not allowed to have men in the sorority house, which seems like a good idea until you realize the only other option is the frat house. This forces women to enter the lion's den, where they are 3 times more likely to experience sexual assault than women in general of the same 18 to 24 age range. Rush is essentially a job you pay to apply for by embodying a specific aesthetic and then work to keep up for years while pulling all-nighters, pounding Adderall, all while dodging unwanted sexual advances from this fucking guy. The Bama Rush content you see online today is further commodification of traditional femininity meant to uphold the outdated idea of noble womanhood that has become a metric of success. And it's fucking weird. I can't imagine how financially draining and mentally exhausting it must be to go through this as a woman who just wants to get her bachelor's of communications.
I don't want to come across like a woke asshole, but like, dude, women have it hard.
All of this to find some semblance of place and purpose among other women. In the HBO documentary, the least boring elements were hearing the women vying for a spot talk about their past struggles with fitting in and feeling like outsiders and being bullied for the way they looked. And all I could think was, you need therapy, not a sorority. One of the girls had an eating disorder and seemed to be looking for external validation when they really just needed someone to sit and listen to them. Like, where are their parents? Many of the girls in the documentary said they learned about Bama Rush from the wave of viral TikToks in 2021 and how it seemed like a fun place to meet like-minded women who wouldn't bully them in the locker room.
These girls would make fun of me every single day in the locker room. Like, about my body, make comments while I'm changing, you know, comments about, like, not eating, like I shouldn't eat, or if I, you know, wear this, then I look fat, or stuff like that. And, it sent me into a really bad relationship with food, so for, like, a full year, I was living with, like, an eating disorder. And I hope by the time I'm in college, I will be in a lot better place mentally.
Something you might have noticed by now is how very white everyone is. And I probably don't need to tell you that these 100-plus-year-old institutions are predominantly and historically white and founded by a bunch of racists who probably owned people at one point. Tuscaloosa, where the University of Alabama is located, opened to the public in 1831, and during the Civil War had many graduates serving as cadets for the Confederate Army. Yikes. As a result, the Union burned down the original campus just 5 days before General Lee surrendered at Appomattox. So, it's not a stretch to suggest that that history doesn't in some way inform current college tradition and culture in some way today. As with a lot of racism in 2025, the obsession with Bama Rush content is just really dumb and belligerent in a way that lacks self-awareness and tact. You've got reactionary conservatives making up scenarios in their heads about how triggered purple-haired lesbians are by the whole thing. Brother, lesbians are probably frothing at the mouth watching women in spandex jump up and down regardless of their politics or why they feel the need to express their femininity in such a stereotypical way. Rush Week isn't going anywhere, nor is it something new, and not every lesbian is a rad femme misandrist. That reactionary sentiment, though, is due to the current political mood, where public rhetoric is full of racist dog whistles and bullhorns that only embolden the most bigoted people to shout even louder and prouder. Look at any of the comments of any of these videos and there are countless replies about all the good genes the women have. Right-wing politics is being reinforced in Bama Rush videos, normalizing a familiar visual language of quote-unquote aspirational Aryan beauty on the lawn of Greek row houses that would make Hitler cream his American Eagle genes. Our political ecosystem valorizes exclusionary aesthetics by aligning with policy choices that police and remove the marginalized from public life. You have people excited by the idea of the government suing colleges because of peaceful pro-Palestine protests that happened on campus while shouting "America is back" when an all-white sorority goes viral. Do you like colleges or not? And also, don't most of you think that women shouldn't be in school? Now, stay with me for this next point I want to make. Right now, the current administration, which again is made up of almost 80% of Panhellenic alumni, has deployed federal law enforcement to stalk the nation's capital in order to, quote, make DC safe again, even though crime is down some 25%. Will this affect white faces? No. It criminalizes homelessness and disproportionately targets black and brown communities. It's state coercion and manufactured consent to sanitize public spaces of people who don't fit the idealized acceptable image. Does that sound familiar? I wonder where they got it from. It's the same social policing you see in Greek recruitment. How many of these modern day graduates do you think will repeat what their 1830s predecessors did during the Civil War? Am I reaching by drawing a line between the Greek university system and the authoritarian takeover of the country's capital? I don't know, but I don't think so. It starts somewhere, and I believe we are where we are because of political grooming at an early age. Among, several dozen other reasons as well. I'm not saying this is the sole reason why we're in a dictatorship now, but it didn't help. At the end of the day, sororities and frats are a parade of forced performativity meant to give members an upper hand in their post-college lives that is, 1, questionable in its efficacy of who it actually benefits, and 2, perpetuates the cycle of discrimination and insulation from what the real world will actually be like for these students when they leave. Most of the people who get into upper echelon Greek houses come from upper class and extremely wealthy families who can afford all the pageantry accessories required to join a Greek house and pay whatever the tuition is. The mid and bottom houses don't have the same ties to industry leaders and politicians, so they attract families that can barely afford all the fees and have to get knockoff Amazon Cartier jewelry. This is not a meritocracy, it's just proof their parents are plugged into a certain social hierarchy. And good fucking luck if you're a person of color. The first sorority to integrate was Mu Sigma Epsilon in 1981, a full 75 years after the first black fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, in 1906. While that's great, it's not like discrimination was magically solved after that. In 1986, when the black sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha was planning to move to the all-white sorority row, 2 white students burned a cross on the front lawn of the new house. it wasn't the first or last time this and worse happened to black and brown students. And if all of this is sounding a bit culty, it is. Just without a single charismatic leader who inevitably manipulates his congregation into sexual favors and then does a mass suicide. The only figurehead here is the institution itself. An institution that borrows heavily from the aesthetics of fascism and then sells it as a place where someone can find community, but only so long as you look and act and believe a certain way. It preys on young people's sense of insecurity and anxiety that pressures them to join. Not to mention the whole secret society thing. The most famous being The Machine, allegedly run by Theta Nu Epsilon, whose Greek letters spell out 1. That's not a red flag at all. They've played a role in the politics of the student community as well as the political careers of numerous Alabama politicians. Allegedly. When I learned about these organizations, I can't help but see a carefully curated attempt to spin some questionable history that may or may not function as recruitment for future SS officers in these Bama Rush videos. Sororities themselves reinforce traditional gender stereotypes that, whether intentional or not, appeal to men and right-wing losers who use it as propaganda that woke is dead. Sororities and fraternities promote philanthropy and belonging, but I get the feeling most join because it's just what you do, which is never a good reason to join anything. There have been many exposés and think pieces and movements to try and change the system, from the creation of the Divine Nine and integration to colleges themselves rewriting the rules that force Greek houses to not be so goddamn racist. But you can't make an exclusive system inclusive simply by reform. You have to dismantle it altogether. And we should probably stop consuming Bama Rush content like it's a sitcom that consumes your every waking minute. That's the video. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you made it this far, that means you're special. This is gonna be my last video for a minute because I'm moving. Literally, as I started to record this, packing boxes were delivered. So as soon as I'm done sitting here, I'm gonna start packing a bunch of my shit up. So say goodbye to Door. Bye, Door! Aww. I'm not taking it with me. It's not even technically mine. Most of the shit in this garage is not mine. It's the people that I rent it from. It's their stuff. And bye, Pulsaw, bye. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Those are the rules of the channel. Thank you again for everybody for continuing to support the channel. I really appreciate it. You can go follow me on Instagram and Threads for updates and memes and shit like that. And until next time, vanish. I'm not gonna waste any more of your time.